All right, so have you ever noticed how in romance, like books and movies and stuff, there's always that one character, usually a guy, who's kind of closed off, like they've got this whole don't mess with me vibe going on?
Oh, absolutely. The brooding, mysterious type.
Yeah, exactly. And for some reason, we just eat it up. There's something about that tough exterior that makes you want to dig deeper, you know? Find out what's going on beneath the surface.
It's such a classic trope, though. That whole idea that beneath that gruff exterior is a heart of gold just waiting to be discovered.
A heart of gold, or in some cases, a whole lot of baggage. Which brings us perfectly to today's deep dive.
Oh, is it baggage day already?
It is! We're tackling Max the Grump Harrison from the Puck and Play series. We're going way back to his backstory, using excerpts from that prequel novella they released, the one simply titled Max.
I remember when that dropped. Fans are clamoring for more of his story.
Oh, for sure. Everyone wanted to know why he's branded with that nickname, the Grump. What happened to make this guy so, well, grumpy? And the novella doesn't disappoint, let me tell you. It takes us all the way back to his college days at Seacrest U, where he's this rising hockey star. I mean, we're talking top of his game, scouted by pros the whole 9 yards. And on top of that, he's dating Chloe, the Hollywood starlet, the one who was in that blockbuster superhero movie a couple years back.
Oh, right. I remember her. So he's got it all, right? Fame, fortune, the girl.
Seemingly. But of course, nothing is ever that simple, is it?
Especially not in romance. There's always a catch.
Always a catch. And the novella does a really good job, I think, of subtly showing how even in the midst of all this perceived perfection, there are cracks in Max's facade. Like, he's clearly struggling with the pressure of being Chloe's boyfriend, of constantly trying to measure up to her world, which is so different from his own.
Yeah, it's like he's straddling two completely different worlds. You have the down-to-earth competitive world of professional sports, and then you have the whole glitz and glamour of Hollywood. And he's stuck trying to navigate both.
And never quite feeling like he belongs in either, it seems like. Especially with Chloe always kind of pushing him to be more like her.
Which is so evident in that scene where she asks him to play his song for her friends. Remember that part?
Yeah.
Where she's like, oh, Max, play that song you wrote. Like, it's this big romantic gesture.
Right. And he's so hesitant, like he doesn't want to share something so personal.
Exactly. And it's a huge red flag for their entire relationship, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because it shows how little she respects his boundaries. Max clearly sees his music as this private, personal outlet, and she just waltzes in and tries to make it this public spectacle.
And then she takes it one step further by secretly recording it. And not just recording it, but framing it as this way to preserve the memory, as if she's doing him a favor.
Ugh, it's classic emotional manipulation, plain and simple. Whether she's conscious of it or not, Chloe is using Max's vulnerability to paint this picture of their relationship and of herself that benefits her. It makes you question her motives,
Absolutely. It makes you wonder if she even really loves Max or just the idea of him.
And that's where it all kind of hits the fan, right?
Oh, yeah. Buckle up.
There's this party scene, right? Chloe's there with all her fancy friends, and of course, Max is dragged along.
Yeah, and you can tell he's so out of his element.
Totally. And Chloe, well, she doesn't make it any easier. She basically pressures him, again, to play a song for everyone.
After he already told her he wasn't comfortable with it.
Exactly. Talk about not taking a hint.
But of course, she pulls out the classic, please, for me.
Yeah.
And Max, being the good guy that he is, well,
He caves.
he caves. And you just know it's not going to end well.
And it doesn't. Because, oh, surprise, surprise, the whole thing was a setup. Someone, and I think we can all guess who, recorded his performance and edited it to make Max look like, well,
a lovesick puppy dog begging for attention.
Exactly. It was brutal. Like something out of a bad reality TV show.
It was calculated. They even spliced in all these close-ups of him hesitating, like he wasn't sure if he wanted to play.
Which he wasn't.
Yeah.
But they edited it to look like he was desperate for Chloe's approval or something.
And of course, it went viral.
Overnight. Suddenly, Max is the laughingstock of the internet. His reputation is shot. His career is in jeopardy.
And Chloe, well, she plays the victim perfectly.
Oh, she's got that innocent act down, Pat.
Even though it's pretty clear that she orchestrated the whole thing, or at the very least benefited from it big time.
Oh, absolutely. It's all very convenient for her, isn't it? This whole narrative of her being the supportive girlfriend and him being,
the grump.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you can't really blame him after all that. I'd be pretty grumpy, too, if my ex did that to me.
Who wouldn't?
So, yeah, that's when Max really becomes the grump. He transfers to UCF, shuts everyone out, and basically erects this wall around himself.
Yeah, he goes into full-on defense mode. It's like he's decided that feeling anything is just too risky.
Which, I mean, can you blame him after being so publicly humiliated like that?
Not at all. It's heartbreaking, honestly. But at the same time, it's interesting to see how he copes. Because even in the midst of all this turmoil, he still manages to, function.
Right, like he finishes his degree, he keeps playing hockey, he doesn't just completely fall apart.
Exactly. There's a strength there, a resilience, that even Chloe's manipulations couldn't completely break.
Right. And the novella does this subtle thing where it shows these tiny glimpses of his old self. Like, he'll do something nice for a teammate or he'll crack a joke, but then he'll immediately retreat back into his shell.
It's like he wants to let people in, but he's just too scared.
Exactly. And then, of course, just when things couldn't get any more complicated.
He gets drafted by the Orlando Sunblades.
Talk about a fresh start.
New team, new city, but that grumpiness, it follows him.
Well, yeah, it's not like you can just erase that kind of hurt and betrayal overnight.
Of course not. But, and this is where it gets interesting, I think, being on the Sunblades, having these new teammates, it's like they start to chip away at that gruff exterior.
They see something in him, something worth fighting for.
Like they recognize that the grump is just a persona. It's not who Max really is.
It's a defense mechanism, a way to keep people at arm's length.
But the question is, can he let them in? It's weird, right? Like, he's this big, tough hockey player, but then you see these glimpses of vulnerability, and you're like, wait a second.
Yeah, it's that contrast that makes him so intriguing. You wouldn't expect a guy like that to be so affected by, well,
Heartbreak.
Exactly. But it just goes to show you, even the toughest guys have feelings.
And sometimes those feelings are what make them build those walls in the first place. It's almost like the ice is his safe space, right? Out there, he's in control. He knows the rules. He knows what to expect. But off the ice, with people, that's where things get messy.
Totally. Relationships are unpredictable. And after what Chloe did, well,
He's gun-shy.
more like completely terrified of getting hurt again. Think about it. He goes from this promising athlete, adored by fans, dating a Hollywood starlet, to being publicly humiliated, betrayed by someone he trusted. It's no wonder he shuts down.
So the million-dollar question is, can he come back from that? Can someone like Max, after all he's been through, really open himself up to love again?
That's what makes this whole thing so compelling, right? We want to see him happy. We want him to get a second chance.
Right.
But it's not going to be easy. He's got a lot of baggage to unpack, a lot of trust issues to work through.
And this is just the prequel. We still have the entire Puck and Play series to get through.
Imagine the drama.
I know, right? But here's the thing. Even with all that baggage, all that hurt, the novella ends on a hopeful note.
Right, like it's not all doom and gloom.
Exactly. There are these little glimmers of hope scattered throughout, like the way he interacts with his new teammates. Even though he tries to play it cool, you can tell that he's starting to let them in just a little bit.
They're chipping away at that gruff exterior, showing him that not everyone is out to hurt him.
Exactly. And that's what I love about this whole setup, because it's not just about Max finding love with another person. It's about him finding himself again. It's about learning to trust again, to open himself up to the possibility of connection, both on and off the ice.
It's a journey, that's for sure. And I, for one, am totally invested in seeing where it takes him.
Me too. So I guess the big question we're left with is the grump here to stay, or is this just the beginning of Max Harrison's comeback?
Good question. Guess we'll have to wait and see.
That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Join us next time when
Why are we already done?
We are. But don't worry, we'll pick this right back up next time. Until then, keep those pages turning.